What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions, and today I want to jump right into it. I want to look at the updated electoral college map between Donald Trump and Joe Biden after the first debate. It is October 1st. We are about a month away from election night, so it's definitely getting down to the home stretch. We're in the month where we might have some October surprises, so that might definitely change up the race. But just kind of getting my quick reaction post debate, I want to do a video on how I think the debate has changed the race and go state by state and kind of measure it. So first of all, I want to get into the likely Democratic states. I already filled in three. I don't think anyone really expect these to be very competitive, just because they've tilted to or turned to the left so much. However, I even think that this go around, it's very possible that Minnesota is a likely Democratic state. I know that Trump campaigned here last night, but we've seen poll after poll that has Biden up in the state. For a while, it was a little bit competitive. I think in kind of early August, kind of when I think the kind of the violence in the cities had kind of gotten to its peak, but I think that that's died down. And I mean, Minnesota is the state that Hillary Clinton won in 2016. And I think that Biden is actually going to be kind of a better candidate into appealing maybe to some of the kind of the white working class base in the state of Minnesota. Next up, I want to go to New Hampshire. I don't think New Hampshire is going to be a heavily contested state. I doubt either candidate pours much money into it. It is only 4 electoral votes. It doesn't really matter that much. It was the closest state in terms of raw votes in 2016, but just seeing a lot of polls out of the state, Biden is up by double digits, and he's up in kind of the 54, 55, 56 range. And I think it's going to be very hard for Trump to kind of gain ground in New Hampshire when he's kind of down by this much. In 2016, I mean, Hillary Clinton was up a little bit in New Hampshire, but it was relatively even. So there's definitely a shift that's happened from 2016 to 2020, where Biden is definitely outperforming Hillary Clinton in the state of New Hampshire. And lastly, I struggle between the likely and lean characterization in the state of Michigan because I know this is a state that Donald Trump won in 2016. However, I think Michigan, out of kind of all the states in the Rust Belt, is going to be furthest to the left. I think Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are definitely going to be more competitive. However, if we look at kind of the 538 map, we can see that Michigan is to the left of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and right now they have it as about a 7 to 8 point difference. I think it's going to kind of be right on kind of the 4 to 5 to 6 point cusp. I have it as the likely right now, but I think just turnout it's going to be very high in some of the urban areas like Detroit and Flint. So moving on to the lean Republican states, I still think that Texas is going to be a lean Republican state. At first, we had some polls that kind of had it tied, but I think people realize now that Texas in 2020 is not going to be a swing state. Biden doesn't need it to win. I doubt much money is going to be spent here by either campaign. So I definitely expect Trump to keep Texas and for the Republicans to keep it in general. And I think John Cornyn on the Senate level is definitely going to help Trump because he's pretty popular in the state of Texas, a lot more popular than like Ted Cruz was in 2018. Next up is the state of Iowa, and this is actually a shift. I had Iowa as a likely Republican state. Right now, I have it as a lean Republican state. I think this state, just out of recent polling, I saw Cook took it out of the lean Republican status and now have it as a toss-up. We've seen some polls where Biden's actually leading in Iowa, and I think on the Senate level, Joni Ernst might be hurting Trump a little bit, just like Martha McSally is hurting him in the state of Arizona. I still think Trump's going to win it because, I mean, he won by, I think, almost double digits in Iowa. So I don't think it's going to, like, shift back to, like, an 11 or 12-point shift because that's what kind of some of the polls have it right now. But I think Trump's going to win this by about 2 to 3 points. Next, I'm going to kind of go into the tilt Republican states. First of all, I want to move into Ohio, and this is kind of a dramatic change than what has happened before. So previously, Ohio was was kind of a lock for Trump. He won it by about 8.5 points in 2016, which shocked like many people. But many people thought that Ohio was not going to be as competitive as it has been. I mean, Ohio has traditionally been a bellwether state, But I mean, just kind of the shifts. If we look at the 2016 election, no one's expecting it to be competitive. I still expect Trump to pull this state out, but I mean, we've seen some polls. I mean, some pretty good polls that have Biden up, but we also have some polls that have Trump up. So I I think this might be closer than previously anticipated, but I still expect Trump to win it. And if we look at the predicted map, yeah, I mean, most people still think Trump is going to win Ohio and Iowa, but definitely there might be some room for concern here for the Trump campaign if these states are competitive. Next up is the state of Georgia. I think Georgia is going to be a tilt Republican state. Um, I I really don't know how the Senate races are going to affect this race very much. I still think like Georgia, like part of the solid South, it's going to be still a tilt towards the Republicans, but increasingly it is trending to the left. It has one of the highest African American populations, kind of for a state, and so if African American turnout is higher than it was in 2016, and a lot of people suspect that. And Biden gets the biggest chunk of these votes. It could be a lot closer than kind of Trump's 5-point victory that he had in 2016. So next up, I want to move to the lean Democratic states, and I want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so right here. So first of all, I want to look at the state of Wisconsin. I think that right now Wisconsin is a lean Democratic state. If we kind of look at the 538, they suspect it to be a 6-point margin. I think it will be closer. Um, the predicted kind of has that a 69% chance that Biden wins. I mean, the polls were very, very off here in 2016 by 6.5 points. So I definitely want to be suspicious of the polls. And I think this state could even move into a tilt Democratic characterization or move on to Trump. Because if we take the same bias as there was in 2016 for the Wisconsin polls, Trump would actually win it very, very narrowly. I think that the pollsters have kind of fixed a little bit of their methodology. That's why I'm not accounting for that full bias there. And I still think Biden will win it right now. Next up, moving to the state of Arizona. I'm really struggling between putting Arizona as a tilt or lean characterization. I just think that like Mark Kelly on the Senate level is going to help out Joe Biden a lot. And we saw in 2016, Kristen Sinema, who I think is a worse Senate candidate than Mark Kelly. She won by 3 points. Obviously, I think in 2020 it's going to be a little tightened, just because we're in a presidential election year, and it's not going to be the blue wave like we saw in 2018. However, I think the state's going to be won by Joe Biden probably between 1 and 3 points. So I'm really kind of struggling between that tilt and lean characterization. So right now we have Joe Biden at 269. He needs 270 to win. So where's this vote going to come out of? Right now, I think that Pennsylvania is probably going to be the tipping point state. At first, I had this as a tilt characterization, but recently we've seen some polls coming out that have Joe Biden up by 9 points, and these are A plus, A minus, and A plus rated pollsters. I mean, we definitely have seen some polls that have it a lot closer. 3+4. These are still within the margin of error, and if we look at the bias in 2016. However, just having these recent polls come out, and especially kind of just the dramatic change in the betting odds. I talked about this in the last video. People were not very impressed with Joe Biden's debate performance. So right now I'm going to kind of side on the side of Joe Biden having more momentum. So I might be a little bit more biased towards him in this video just because it happened right after the presidential debate. But I mean, definitely Trump has time to change it, but he's running out of time. There's only a month left. And maybe his more kind of desperate attempts to change the race, I can see them backfiring too. I think he was a little over aggressive in the debates. So lastly, kind of going to the tilters. I think Maine's 2nd district is going to tilt towards Trump, and I think that Nebraska's 2nd district is going to tilt towards Biden. These states don't really matter right now. I mean, if we look at the predicted, I mean, they're just right on the cusp. I mean, we see it's like 51, 49, and if we look at Florida, I mean, Florida is just like a complete toss up right now. I don't think this is actually, yeah. So we have it 52, 50. If we look at the 538, looking at the things, we can see that Florida, Joe Biden is expected to win by less than 2 percentage points, and same with North Carolina. Right now, how I kind of slice it and dice it, I still think Donald Trump has a slight advantage in North Carolina, but I mean it's just it's really hard to know. I'm kind of splitting the difference here. I'm gonna have Florida in the tilt Democratic side. So here you have it right near 219 to 319, so about a 100 point electoral difference. This is not a landslide by any means, and I think some people after Trump's debate performance were expecting a landslide. I don't think that it is going to be a landslide right now, but there you have it. And one thing that I kind of want to reference in closing is that Trump's on the 538 model that kind of started in June 1st. Right now, he's at the lowest chance that he's ever had to win. He's at a 20% chance. The lowest he had previously was kind of at the height of the Black Lives Matter protest in late June. He was at a 21% chance, but now he's even lower than that. So um, I definitely want to take these models with a grain of salt because they were not entirely correct in 2016. But right now, I still am projecting a Joe Biden victory. So please let me know what you thought of this video in the comments. And please subscribe if you haven't already and watch some of my other videos and share this with your friends if you haven't already. Thanks, guys.